this is Dane Michael, and you're watching the USA Up All Night Companion. Here today, we're talking about the film 1987's Princess Academy. And I've got the star, Lar Park Lincoln. It was actually introducing Lar Park Lincoln in the opening credits.
It was actually, yes.
So that was your first film role, or just?
I don't think it was. I guess it was. I got an introducing on television for Children of the Night, and then an introducing for film.
Okay. Do you remember anything about auditioning for that?
I do. I remember everything about auditioning for it because they were reading a lot. We had quite a few characters in the show, but some were cast we shot in Yugoslavia, so some were cast Yugoslav and some were Italian.
Okay.
And one was French, so we had a lot of languages. So I do remember reading for the different roles as they figured out who would play what.
Okay. Did they tell you right away that Eva Gabor was going to be in it? Was that a known?
They did.
Okay.
And it was the funniest thing because I went to do a cancer ball in Washington, D.C., and I was sitting with Zsa Gabor.
Okay.
And I had shot with her sister Eva Gabor, and that was just so random. How would you be with the two Gabor sisters?
That's something that not a lot of people can say that probably weren't related to them.
Exactly.
So this film,
Crazy.
Princess Academy, it comes out presumably, I don't know how it was released, but it's almost impossible to find today. I actually watched it. I downloaded it from a site, and it had forced Dutch subtitles.
Oh, my goodness.
So my understanding is there was a double feature that you attended where they screened this from a rough VHS transfer, and it was the first time you'd seen it in years.
A million years.
Tell me about what was it like watching this thing again for the first time in so long?
It was such a complicated... Actually, our director, Bruce Block, ended up doing Baby Boom on TV and has had a very long, incredible career. But Princess Academy, my leading man, the real actor, hurt his back on day one or day two, and they didn't recast that character. We just shot around the whole storyline. Wow. So it needed to be a cult favorite because it was a crazy film.
And it does... I just watched it I think yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh my goodness.
And it does come across as where did this love story with her, she's got a freeze frame at the end where she's we'll see basically if I'm going to wind up with you or not.
The island.
Cindy, forgive me. Everything I have is yours.
Everything? Oh, think about it.
But I'm who is he?
Where did he go? It was just crazy.
As far as memorable scenes in this film, one thing that stood out to me was you get stuck in a porta potty at one point, and it starts going down this ski slope.
Right.
And you wind up in a tree somehow.
Shooting,
physics be damned. And the porta potty goes upside down.
Yes.
Now, in real life, you would have been expelled from the
Right, I
academy.
would have fallen out.
Because I don't think... So I have a story, I know somebody that this happened to. They were at, a festival.
And so
after hours, they went into the porta potty, and people, roped it off, and they turned it upside down on her.
I can't imagine.
That's traumatic. You have to get all kinds of vaccinations and things like that.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
You probably never feel clean again. But
no.
I just wanted to say that was particularly
Well,
disgusting.
I wasn't really in there, so that's a positive for me. There were some union protections.
I'm so happy about that. Now, you mentioned that was going to be one of my questions. You mentioned that it was shot in Yugoslavia because it takes place in Switzerland. So I was they definitely found lots of snow in certain scenes. But
the snow.
Do you remember how long the shoot was?
Yes, it was about 6 weeks in 15 below freezing every day. And we couldn't get hot water in the hotel. We'd turn it on. We'd get lukewarm water. And it was so cold. And one scene, my character's flung into a snowbank. And you shoot in places like Yugoslavia, whatnot, different countries, because the cost is so much lower.
Right.
But they didn't have duplicates on my wardrobe. So my clothes were soaked, and I'm laying in this, in this snowbank. I remember that very well.
Did you receive any out of left field questions or anything that you weren't expecting in the Q&A after that one? at the screening for that?
Well, no, it was interesting how many people had fun watching it, which
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I did. I did have fun, and I think that's the point of entertainment and filmmaking. It doesn't always have to be the most serious. Sometimes we can just have a great time.
I agree.
And that's what that was.
And that's why I like, obviously I'm doing a show all about the
Yeah.
movies that were featured on USA Up All Night,
Yeah,
which this
wow.
was one of them. And I think if it hadn't been, maybe no one ever brings up this movie again,
Yeah.
but I hope someday it gets like an actual restoration and I can watch it without forced Dutch subtitles.
Without the oh my goodness, that's hysterical.
But, if anybody who owns the rights is out there watching, please put this on Blu-ray. You'll sell at least one copy.
At least one
And
copy
I'll
of
buy
that
one for Lar. as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, you'll have to send me
Put this
one.
on the special features.
Yes.
Yes. Now I have a copy of it with only English.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually have
Is it on
one.
VHS or DVD?
My
You
mind,
probably-
I can't even think
you might
about
own
what
the
it is.
original negatives. So,
No, I do not.
all right. Well, thank you again for
Thank
your
you
time, and
so
thank you
much.
for humoring us and talking about the
Oh
Princess
my
Academy.
goodness. Oh,
Love it.
as an actor, never dismiss any of the things you did because
No.
they all just lead you throughout your entire career, one
Beautiful.
way or the other, one piece.
Beautifully said,
Yeah.
and that's why you get to do things like this.
I know.
all
It's
the time
fun.
now.
Yes, it is.
I thought it would be pretty awesome to open a show with an interview with one of the film stars, and Princess Academy, Lar Park Lincoln, I think I was right. So what a lovely person she is, and what a great little interview we got for a film that not a lot of people have heard of. This is 1987's The Princess Academy, directed by Bruce Bloch. This aired a grand total of one time on USA Up All Night, and that was August 24th, 1996, along with The Vixens of Bandolero. This is a very odd film. I've heard it described as a Porky's for girls. I don't know that it's made for girls. I don't know that it's made for boys. It's just very curious because it's a sex comedy without sex, and a lot of people would tell you it's pretty light on comedy. However, there are some sight gags and other things that just come out of left field in this movie that actually do work. They don't all come together to make one cohesive, great movie, but there are vignettes here that arguably make the endeavor of watching this film worthwhile. I say arguably, it's not conclusive, but we're going to get down to the review here pretty quickly. I do want to read the synopsis first. On IMDb, we have this synopsis. Lowbrow humor is the feature in this Porky's for Girls, the students of an elite international private school that teaches rich young women how to behave like proper ladies rebel against their strict, snobbish, and brutish head teacher. And that's Fraulein Stinkenschmidt. Now, this movie tries to be a lot of things, and I don't know that it succeeds at a lot of them. And you're going to find yourself wondering how they get from point A to point B in the same film. For example, there's no way when I started watching this movie that I would have anticipated seeing these women riding a tank around blowing things up. But that's what we get. And then we also get this, which it was referenced in the interview with Lar, this tacked on romance for Cindy. I don't understand what they were thinking a lot of the time, but I think they were just under the impression that we have the cast here, we're all in Yugoslavia, we need to film a movie, and this is what we're doing. I'm going to rate this, I'm going to be fairly critical. I'm going to rate it a 7 out of 20. We have, the story is basically Cindy is left on the doorstep of as a baby, by the way, of a reform school for juvenile delinquents. So she's forced into a life of crime, even though it's not in her nature. She's a sweetheart, Lar Park Lincoln, of course. She later is selected to attend this reform school on scholarship because they want to give somebody who's one of these juvenile delinquents a free ride, basically, to become a subservient woman in society, which is the goal of this Von Pupson Academy. The rest of the film centers on her arrival and meeting all of the other girls in the academy, and then learning that the head teacher wants to basically take over control of the academy from Countess Von Pupson, Eva Gabor. This head teacher, Fraulein Stinkenschmidt, is evil. She hates Lar Park Lincoln's Cindy Cathcart character. and she basically is the devil. Okay? The rest of the film basically consists of vignettes of sexual related humor, but it never goes extreme. It just consists of things like putting itching powder in tampons. Okay? That's the level of boorishness that this film brings us. We'll get into some more of these gags because those are some of the funnier things actually in the film. So for now, I'm just giving you the score, 7 out of 20 for story and screenplay. And I think that's being generous because there are scenes where they run around hallways like a Scooby-Doo sequence, basically, Scooby-Doo chase sequence through a hallway. You're actually seeing that in real life, like filmed in real life, and as comedy, not as satire. And we're moving on to the cast rating for this film. I'm going to give it a pretty strong score, all things considered. This is an ensemble. Even though they have a protagonist, she is actually not given a lot to do by herself. And the film really does spend a lot of time focusing on other characters' side stories. There were actually some side stories that I thought they very easily could have given to Cindy's character, but that was not the case. So there's a lot of actors that are asked to do a lot of things for this story and to move things along in the way that they do. And I think a lot of them do a very good job. As Lar pointed out in her interview, it's a very diverse cast of people. You have people playing German, you have people playing Swiss, Italian, French, British, and American, all in the same. And you even have Cindy, who's like a regular American. And then you have the traditional Texan Lulu Bell, played by Britt Helfer. So the cast does a great job. Eva Gabor was underused, but she was putting in her appearances as far as I'm concerned. Lar Park Lincoln, underused as well, insofar as she could have commanded a lot more of the story. However, it does sound like the leading man had an injury or had to be off the shoot for a good amount of time. And so they pivoted and probably brought up some of these side character stories. And as a result, it's more of an ensemble. Carol Davis as Sonia, she's playing the resident sexpot. She's fantastic in this. You may recognize her from another USA Up All Night film that we'll eventually cover, one that I really like called Shrimp on the Barbie, which is a Cheech Marin film. And Lou Leonard as Fraulein Stinkenschmidt. She's a great villain for this film. Natalie Tarkowski plays Colette, a virginal French woman who believes that she will explode if she has sex. She is given a lot of content that I really thought could have been Cindy Cathcart material, but she handles it quite well. I'm going to go 13 out of 20 for this cast, and that's going to be, spoiler alert, the highest category score out of 20 that I give for any of the components of this film. Production value. Well, they did do a little spending on one name actor, Eva Gabor. And then the rest of the cast is basically young ingenues, introducing Lar Park Lincoln and others. The cinematography looks decent to me. It's really hard to tell on an old VHS rip, basically. But the sound mix appears to be quite off. Many times they are playing music far too loud over the proceedings, including the opening scenes of the film when we're being introduced to all these characters. Made it very difficult for me to figure out who was supposed to be who, because you're trying to hear this dialogue over, quite honestly, an infectious song. But it's not the only time they play this song. The song, by the way, is very cheesy but cool. It's called Gold Card Rap, and it's by Sid Caesar, the legendary Sid Caesar, with vocals by Diana Harris. The result of it sounds something akin to Kate Bush meets Cyndi Lauper and a weird old man rapping in the middle of it all. I can only just play a snippet for you so that you know what I'm talking about, but they play it at the beginning, the end, and probably, I think, even in the middle too. They were very proud of it, and that's why when they do the freeze frame at the end, the first credit is not like starring anybody. It's Gold Card Rap by Sid Caesar with Diana Harris. Just wonderful. That ups the production score a little bit, But then some of these gags they pulled off just don't look very good, such as the porta potty thing we saw at the beginning of the episode. They do bring a tank into the middle of it and some explosions, which that just screamed to me like we have a little bit of extra money to throw around because something didn't pan out, or somebody has access to a tank here in Yugoslavia, so let's use it. To me, that wasn't a sign of great production value. It was a sign of like desperation or just being weird, really. Because that to me, that whole scene is out of place in the film, and I'm not the only one who thinks it comes from out of nowhere. So on production value, I'm gonna go halfway there, 10 out of 20. And that leads us into the score for Sleaze and Gore. Wow, this is a pretty mild one for people saying it's a Porky's light. It's a Porky's very light. There's no nudity that I could detect. There's a lot of walking around in lingerie, things like that. There's a lot of sexual-oriented humor, such as a whole scene devoted to faking an orgasm. But there's no gore. There's some sleaze, but it's very comical and does not go very far. As it would be kind to give this a 5 out of 20 because it's really not a movie for kids still, despite the fact that it's omitting a lot of these things. It's not for kids, but it's not going to really offend any adults that I know. So the film from my first 4 categories is scoring 35 out of a possible 80. You know, all hope is not lost because we're going to take a look at the Trope Tracker and see if it can pick up to an additional 20 points. Let's get started. Does this film have a peeping Tom? No, it actually does not. Very odd for a movie that's being compared to Porky's, the quintessential peeping Tom movie. Nothing like that going on here. Do we have a nerd or a geek? No, we do not. We just have women, young women, beautiful young women. Shower or hot tub scene? Again, for a movie being compared to Porky's, it's failing so far. Do we have a montage? Yes, we do. Check out this montage here of things that happen when the women move in. Cheesy song, yes, gold card rap, we've covered that, and it's wonderful. There's another really cheesy song in the middle as well, which I found to be quite good. Is there a horny older woman? Yes. Check out this action with Fraulein Stinkenschmidt. On-screen kill. Nope, despite the fact that there is gunfire and tanks, they don't actually show anybody die, and I don't think that they would have wanted that to be communicated that these women were killing people. Politician or mobster? Why yes, the character of Izzy or Isabella has a father who is in the mafia, and that's pretty clearly communicated at the beginning of the film in this scene here.
You're going to the Von Popson Academy, and you're coming home a lady. And so you can marry Angelo Salami.
Not even if he was the last piece of meat on earth.
Isabel, you marry Angelo, or I lock you in a convent, and by God, you marry God.
Screw you!
Screw you!
Is there a nudie mag? Yes, one of the women actually has a nudie mag centerfold out. Check this out. Mall scene. No, these ladies do not go to a Swiss mall. Weed alert. Nope. No drug use that I could detect. Skinny dipping? No, that does not happen. Implication that sex equals death. That's a classic horror movie trope, and it is not found here. Are there any punks? You know what? Well, this girl right here strikes me as being a punk. I'm gonna give it a sympathy point for that alone. Is there any simulated farting? Now, this is one of the favorite Trope Tracker points I've ever given away. I'm just gonna play the scene for you, and it was completely unexpected for me.
Feet on the floor. Shoulders back. Spine straight. Chins up. Tuck your tummies in. Wrists off the table. Elbows 2 inches from your side. And tighten the buttocks.
Creature on the Loose. No. Suntan lotion? Not in this movie. It's too cold. Fake commercial. This is potentially my favorite scene in the movie, and it was quite well done in my opinion. Very hilarious satire, and one of the few things that worked.
Paris?
Hong Kong.
Fabulous suit. Good workmanship. Must have cost you a fortune.
I got it on sale.
Ooh, I love that word.
Halston.
Yves Saint Laurent. I got an incredible deal.
The only way to buy.
Silk?
100% pure.
Crepe de Chine.
Heaven Picon.
A copy. Valentino.
Brioni.
Fiorucci.
Vitadini.
Armani.
A knockoff.
Ooh. Christian Dior. I got a deep discount.
Gucci.
Ooh, the G-spot. Calvin Klein briefs. Me too. $4.50. Bloomingdale's.
Former or future A-lister? You could take issue with this, but I'm going to say that Eva Gabor had been iconic. Probably still was iconic. Yeah, I knew who she was in the 80s, and I'm going to say yes, it gets the point. It's an A-list actress. And finally, is there a reference to another USA Up All Night feature film in this one? No, not that I could detect. So it finishes up the Trope Tracker with an additional 9 points, which is really good actually for the Trope Tracker. 9 tropes cashed in. And that brings its total all the way up to 44, which a lot of films are going to do better than that. A lot of films are going to do worse. Okay, let's compare the score for Princess Academy with some of our other reviewers around the web. On IMDb, it's getting 3.2 out of 10 on average. Rotten Tomatoes audience score, 50%. Letterboxd doesn't have a full rating, but the most common rating is 2 stars out of 5. And then Leonard Maltin, 1998 Video and Movie Guide, actually did review it. Leonard writes, allegedly titillating comedy about young women at a Swiss school who compare notes on losing virginity and snaring rich husbands. In any language, it stinks. Thank you for sticking through this Princess Academy review with us. Again, I wish I could tell you where you could find it other than just look online. You'll eventually find a download. Everywhere I looked, I've only seen the same one, which has the Dutch hard-coded subtitles. So if somebody owns the VHS, do us a favor. Or if you own the rights, bring it to Blu-ray, please. Well, I'll buy it. We'll see you next time on the USA Up All Night Companion. I've been Dane Michael. I will be Dane Michael next time you see me.